Herzlich willkommen zum wehorse Podcast. Die École de Légèreté, zu Deutsch die Schule der Leichtigkeit, ist seit vielen Jahren ein großes Thema bei uns, denn wir haben unzählige Lernserien und Videos mit dem Gründer und Erfinder der Légèreté, dem Franzosen Philippe Karl, in den vergangenen Jahren gedreht. Ihr findet sie bei uns auf der Seite zum Streamen. Es gibt einen eigenen Kategoriepunkt. Unter alle Videos Dressur, Légèreté sind sie zusammengestellt. Die Videos von Philippe Karl und seinem Team. Darüber hinaus haben wir ein Trainerprofil mit einer Biografie, den wichtigsten Dingen zu seiner Laufbahn und vor allen Dingen einer Zusammenstellung seiner beliebtesten Lernfilme. Das ist unter dem Menüpunkt Trainer, in der Auflistung aller Trainer, die auf wehorse.com sind, dann Philippe Karl finden und dort, wie gesagt, eine Übersicht auch noch zu Philippe und seinem Team selber. Heute ist er erstmalig im wehorse Podcast zu Gast, darüber freuen wir uns sehr. Bitte beachtet, dass dieses Interview auf Englisch geführt wurde. Nun viel Spaß mit der neuesten Folge. I'm very happy to have one of our most renowned wehorse trainers in our podcast today, and we very much looked forward having him. Welcome and bienvenue, Monsieur Philippe Karl.
Thank you very much.
Everyone knows the School of Légèreté. Everyone knows your philosophy of riding and the style of schooling. For everyone that doesn't know yet, what is the School of Légèreté? A broad question to start.
Yeah, a broad question. I would say that already when I started riding, being 20, and immediately totally passionate, and even after that deciding to stop medicine studies to do that as a profession, which was totally crazy. I wanted, maybe because I started being a bit an adult already, and as a personal decision, not by a family tradition or good. I was quite demanding already. And for instance, I had big difficulties to follow lessons and do what the teachers were saying if I had no explanation, if I could not understand why, what is the suppose, why it works, why it doesn't work. So I was the perfect difficult student for that. And I was insisting, and as often I had no sufficient answer, or long sentences with no clear sense, which is a specialty in riding. Long sentences
and
with
complexity.
Which doesn't say anything that clear. And as I had a bit a scientific tendency, I was looking for explanations. I mean, a bit anatomy, a bit physiology, a bit this and that. And
because you've also been a medicine student.
Yeah,
back then.
And also reading masters more than the result of the last competition. So with and watching experienced people, riders, trainers, people like that, and especially Oliveira in that time, I came to the idea that there are much better solutions than what we are doing, and I found some of these ideas in many books already, and especially in General Lot, in Baucher, in people like that. And I was very logically attracted by solutions which exclude constraining instruments, power, sweating, because when you exclude this and it works, you are necessarily finding a better solution. There is no long discussion. If you eliminate these solutions, you and it works again. It's because you understand better what the horse needs, mentally, physically, in terms of balance, whatever you want. And it has always been my way to select what I keep in mind, what I eliminate, and naturally I was doing big mistakes as anybody in learning, but I was constantly trying to use less special beats, less and not at all working reins, and no power, finding and solutions we could explain. I mean, it works because, and it works on this type of horse, not on this one because. And as long as I had not an explanation, even on the exceptions, which are supposed to confirm the rule, I was not satisfied. And you do that 50 years, training any kind of horse. This is the other thing. I never had the opportunity to ride fantastic horses. This one is not good enough, it doesn't work, another one. I was forced to use the horses I had. And sometimes complicated one, spoiled, damaged, difficult, whatever you want, and sometimes good one. And it makes an amount of experiences which progressively create something quite steady and strong and consistent. And I could say that I was daily trying to make the pyramid higher and more steady and stronger, and so much. And naturally, with this tendency and trying to get clear ideas and the possibility to explain how it works and why and this and that, and having rules out of it. It became for me a pleasure to explain and to teach, because in fact the reason why there are so few good teachers and a lot very quickly shouting because not accepting the question because they don't have clear answers, it's this. I mean, you know, when you can explain why it works, why it doesn't work, what is the plan, what we do next time, and do it yourself, show how it works. I mean, it's a pleasure to teach.
That's true.
And it's even a pleasure to find solutions on difficult horses.
Yeah, and then you're able to find solutions.
And then you go on improving what you are doing constantly. Yeah. The practice makes the theory more clear. The theory is confirmed by the practice or not. And it's a snowball which becomes very big.
Bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
How did you initially come in touch with horses? What's your personal background? How did you grow up?
My father was riding a bit when he was an officer during the war. The beginning of the war.
You're originally from France, so he was in the French army.
Yes.
During World War II.
Yes, at the beginning, because it has been short, as you know. And but he didn't go on riding afterwards. And I mean, you know, in the 50s, everybody was not riding as nowadays, and it was not in the plan. There was not the money to do it, and there was no question. But I had an uncle who was a rider. I didn't see him riding because he was in North Africa, but I heard him during all holidays talking about that, and I was very attracted by any horse I could cross anywhere. And so when it was time to decide for a profession, and I could do medicine, I could do this, I could do that, I was interested in classical studies. I mean, the possibilities were very, very open. And this was the problem. I could decide for many things. And maybe it's my temperament. I wanted to do something I'm passionate with. I didn't want to have just a good profession earning money, and which is also good. But and afterward, the challenge is to do this profession, still using one's brain, and because it's very easy when people have to earn their life with this profession to start being rough and I understand, because it's an incredibly difficult profession, and afterward the necessity to properly earn your life.
Exactly.
Which is also something not easy.
At least to make some money, right? Not
Enough, just enough to
for survival.
Yeah, and then and then I've been a bit lucky, because my first job was quite interesting. It was for the Minister of Agriculture.
So but first you studied medicine for 5
1
years.
year,
Only one year, and then you skipped.
Only. Yes, and then I did the selection to enter a school with 3-year studies on breeding, any kind of breeding, including horses, and including the teacher exam at the end. I did that 3 years, and afterward I was in charge of the riding department in a national school.
In Saumur?
No, in Rambouillet.
Ah, okay.
In the school where I was when I was a student, and I was there 7 years. Afterward, I've been independent and difficult, and I was training an Anglo-Arabian, a stallion, who was a guy refusing to go forward from a student of mine, but refusing to go seriously. And I was competing, jumping a bit with him, and pushing his education quite far, because he was in Piaf and things like that, the Spanish walk and things like that. There are photos of him in one of my books. And I was offered a 10 pages article in a magazine, an interesting magazine on that time, and I was explaining what I was thinking, that why, with many photos of this horse and explanations, why people are specialized dressage, others jumping.
Why are they not general horse riders, correct?
Yeah, and especially when the official speech is, with the classical riding, you can do everything. But I had on the same horse. And this is what I was doing with that one. And I was trying to explain that, how is it possible to practice jumping a nice way, using the best of the French tradition riding already, in this
your mind already.
Yeah, this was in the end 70s, early 80s. So I did this article, and with photos of the horse from double lunge to Piaf and Spanish walk and jumping. And I got a phone call. Allô, Colonel Durand à l'appareil, écuyer en chef du Cadre Noir. J'ai lu votre article, je le trouve très intéressant. Qu'est-ce que vous faites, où vous êtes, etc., etc. Oh, who are you? I was first thinking somebody is teasing me, but no, it was the reality. And I was invited to go to Saumur for some days, teaching there. And at the end, he offered me to enter the school.
For everyone that doesn't know, Saumur and the Cadre Noir is kind of like a national monument in France, and kind of like the gatekeeper of the French riding philosophy.
It's supposed to, but it's not. I'm sorry, maybe we will talk about that. Yeah, it's another problem.
But then you've been for, I believe, 13
years. And in that time, it was still interesting, I would say. And since that time, it has been, as most of the so-called classical institutions, declining a lot due to the dressage competition influence. I mean, and I saw all this development. I started riding in 67. The riding was not, it was not art everywhere, but there were, most of the time, there were rules that were respected. And progressively, the riding developed a totally unexpected way. More and more people riding, more and more professionals, more and more competition, more and more sponsors, more and more money, and the same problem in riding than in any other sport. Then came the incredible development of the dressage competition, and then came the overflex horses, the rollcure, hyperflexion, and this is things we didn't exist in the past. I mean, I remember passing the teacher exam. I mean, if your horse had the nose a little bit behind the vertical 1 second, because it can always happen, but a bit more than that, you were out simply. And it was absolutely no question to have tight noseband and special one to clench completely and things like that. I mean, to use the side reins or things like that was also something not accepted, and all that things are completely normal now. You look even strange if you don't do it.
What would you say? What are the reasons why you see those developments? What are the reasons that the rules of classical dressage are
less
no longer
culture,
valid?
more business? Quickly make money.
So you would say it's the business aspect that
business aspect and less culture. I mean,
is also less tradition.
No, but when there is less riding culture, people forget the tradition. They don't even know that they exist. They are existing. I mean, when I'm, for instance, talking with a French teacher, I was in Saumur, and it's many of them, they are really they were not interested at all in the culture they should know and defend and practice. And yeah, I mean, it's like that nowadays. You know, things have to go fast, make money quickly. And I saw, for instance, the content of the teacher's exam in France becoming easier and easier and easier, and the level declining a lot. In the last 30 years, it's obvious.
But you've been for 13 years écuyer at the Cadre Noir.
From 85 to 98.
Back then, how would you describe the role of the Cadre Noir back then for the classical French style of riding?
It's complicated to explain.
At least we give it a try.
Yeah. To have a more complete answer, you could read the text I was writing and putting on my internet. I think it's in German too. I was writing a text with the agreement and the control of General Durand, the one I was talking.
He was in charge. He was in the Ministry of Agriculture, I reckon.
He was first international jumping rider in the French team, successful, excellent. Then he has been the écuyer en chef. Then he has been the director, and I was keeping very close to him. And he died 2 years ago. And you heard of this acknowledgement of the French traditional riding, for the French riding in the UNESCO.
Yeah,
good.
It's historical heritage in the UNESCO.
The problem is, are we showing the heritage? Because to convince the UNESCO to protect something is not that difficult. If they are not riders and they don't have a long, deep riding culture, you can teach them tell them whatever you want. And my question was, and I am explaining that in this article, is there a necessity to talk about French riding? This is the first question. does it make sense? Does it mean something? It means something if we find in the whole French riding culture elements that are specific, that you don't find in other traditions, and that justify to talk about a French philosophy of schooling the horses. Otherwise, stop it. We don't need all this complicated story. So, and then I was listing all these elements because they are. I give you some examples like that. The hands, the seat, the legs. Or any other instrument, so side reins, Schlafzügel, whatever you want, absolutely refused.
Forbidden.
It starts with la guérinière. It goes on with Baucher, and it goes on with General Lot. This is something to notice.
Yeah.
No? It's something clear on several centuries, and you don't find anywhere else. Nobody talks about. That's strange. And why it's like that? Because there is this idea that a fundamental part of the education of the horse is teaching them the hand. Instead of looking for an instrument to prevent the horse from doing something you don't want, you teach him to do what you want, with an education to this. So using the hand to teach different signals, to give different reactions, organizing them together according to the horse's level and so on. It's something complex but fantastic, incredibly effective, with the satisfaction not to constrain the animal. Good. This is typical. I don't say that you cannot find some ideas a bit like that in other traditions, but this is fundamental and typical of this philosophy. You find it a little bit already in La Guérinière. For instance, you don't find the idea that the hands have to keep down all the time. They're not supposed to prolong and repeat the effect of the side reins. They are to be used in a more and more discreet way because the horse knows, but they are supposed to have a conversation with the horse. Good. They don't talk about that in the UNESCO story. Not at all. And I could go on the list like that. And so I was listing all that things. There are many others, such as, for instance, the hands without the legs without the hands. It's clear, and especially with on the light of other disciplines, that when you teach the hand, you cannot spoil the message by using your legs at once. If you want to measure and judge the reaction to one signal of the hands or of the legs, you should not spoil it by a contradiction. It's very demanding to the rider, this. Good. And then progressively you can do combinations. And all these ideas really make a philosophy. Good. And then the French riding, one of the first high-ranking representing this is supposed to be the Cadre Noir, and if you go there nowadays, I suggest that you do, you will see nose bend like that, overflex horses, and anything of this kind. They don't practice the flexions, they don't teach the flexion. Already I saw it when I was there. The people, teachers who spend 1 year to come on the second level as teachers, they leave the school, they don't know what is a flexion. So what does it mean to protect the French tradition represented by the Cadre Noir? It's an imposture at the end. So naturally, you are very disturbing when you explain things like that. But that's the truth. Because for the big public, it's an imposture to make them thinking that they find there a philosophy, a tradition, and then it makes sense that the UNESCO is defending and protecting it. I mean, there are other causes to defend in the world.
Do you have, on the other hand, people that inspire you, where you have the feeling they have a philosophy, they have a way of riding, where you also get inspiration and look into it?
Yeah, I've been very inspired by the school of Oliveira.
Manuel Jorge de Oliveira from Portugal.
Nuno Oliveira,
very,
yes,
influential.
When I started already in the late 60s, and he was not fashion. He was not a fashion in that time. I tell you, not at all. Nowadays, yes, but in that time, I was even in trouble with some authorities because I was interested in him. But I've been inspired too by excellent jumping riders, and you know, I was naturally attracted by, interested by all the riders who had much more experience than I, and it was not difficult in that time. But at once, I had a critical eye. I mean, I say, okay, but is it necessary with such a talent to ride with a martingale on a Pelham and you know? And could it be that there are better solutions? And there are people I especially appreciate, such as Michel Robert and people like that. And
French show jumper, probably the most renowned.
And others too. Frequently, I was admiring people while competing, and I was sometimes disappointed when I saw them training, because when you go backstage and you see the daily organization, sometimes it's not that nice.
You developed your philosophy with the School of Légèreté. That happened after your period at the Cadre Noir. Now you command a huge number of people with Appel, your organization behind it. What is Appel?
It's an association we created in order to support the school, in order to get members, get money in order to participate to events such as Equitana, unserer, and other things like that.
And you also train people to become instructors and trainers with Légèreté.
This we started in 2004. Because there was a high demand, more and more interested people, and so finally I started teachers courses. The first one in Germany.
Yeah, in Germany the community is very huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the first one. Because I started there, and the interest was incredible, and the idea was to select interested people who were already teaching, sometimes amateurish, but teaching, sometimes really professionally, and people were looking for something else, and who wanted to know more, to understand better, to teach more, to train better their horses. Good, and I started these courses. There have been several in Germany, then others in Switzerland, in Italy, in England. There are some in US, in Australia, and so on.
If you would compare the Légèreté, your philosophy with, for instance, the classical German way of riding, how would you compare them?
First of all, I think there is the same difference between the best of the French riding, let's say 50 years ago and more, and what you see today, and the German riding you could see 50 years ago and more, and what you see today and nowadays. There is the same evolution.
So the same process, you mean, is
Yeah.
happening in Germany
Yeah.
as well?
I was traveling enough all around the planet when people ride in a rectangular with letters around. The nose is touching the chest. It's incredible. Incredible. And it's damaging incredible amount of horses. Without that, we could just say, well, it's a fashion, doesn't matter. But it's really something really bad.
And it's disturbing, that's at least my feeling, also people that are not so familiar with horses, that come into our horse world for maybe the first time. They see this, they may be at a horse show, and they are really distracted by that because it's not for the welfare of the horse.
Yeah, so, and you are now in this situation that it's mainly people who are not in the riding scene who are still sensible to that. When people who are in, they don't even see it anymore. So it's terrible to understand that the more you are in this profession, the more you lose completely your sensibility toward the horses, and this is something I cannot accept. But I don't want to avoid your question.
Exactly, the comparison between Germany and France.
I can be diplomatic, but I'm not a politician. There were things in common, such as overflexion was no way. Good. And if you compare, for instance, photos of, let's say, podage ski, and what you see nowadays in Wien, the same, you're horrified. And so what was very different in the philosophy is there's in the let's say German riding, German tradition, there is a well-established system. Everybody applies
a set of rules. So to say.
Good. Education at the lounge with side reins. So already education at the lounge without side reins. This is a difference, because naturally you can educate a young horse at the lounge with the side reins very carefully, very progressive, very paying attention to this and that. Nevertheless, there is something to force the position soon or later, and it's better not to do. And there are possibilities to bring a horse to a nice neck extension without anything like that. And then it has more sense because you obtain it, you understand? Instead of forcing it even a gentle way. Good. This is a difference. And afterwards, there is this idea that, then I don't have the German word, l'appui. The horses have to be first on the hand. And you find that, for instance, in Steinbrecht, with explaining. I was reading it several times in French and seriously, and others too. The horse becomes light, in doing that. At the end,
the mouth action.
Yeah, at the end of his education, when he's collected on a high level. Good. So this means already that it's not so many horses who are light in their life, because there are not many coming on that level. But it's true that when a horse is properly collected, one of the consequences is his tendency to do that. But what discovered Baucher, which is genius, is that you can turn the proposition,
turn it around,
upside down. Teach the horse to give his mouth from the very beginning, for the simple reason that in any country, any system on this planet, between your hands and at the end of the reins is the mouth, is not the pole. So what you have to make saying yes, it's the mouth, it's not the pole. Good, it looks stupid to say that, but it's obvious. So he found that if you educate the horse by his mouth first, yeah, you can also do mistakes. There is no system with total guarantee. But you educate the horse by his mouth. So it means already putting the hands down and forcing like that, or starting with the side reins, is absolutely no question. The horse has to be relatively free, and you teach him to give his mouth. There are different procedures. Good. When he gives his mouth, is relaxing. When you tighten the reins on the horse and you feel that, it's not the same. It's very, very different. Good. And with that, you can ask for many quite pronounced positions, which are a gymnastic of the neck, extremely bent. This is naturally provoking the extension. When a horse is well doing that already at the walk and at the trot, it becomes very easy to flex the pole, but the flexion of the pole is last in the series, not first due to the side reins. It's last, but it can be last after 5 weeks. It can be last after 6 months. Depends the development. So the mouth, the neck, the pole. Right the opposite of the, let's say, more conventional or German
style. First
the pole. Then quite a tight nose bend or calfson in order to avoid the unexpected reactions of the horse doing that or pulling the tongue or things like that. So once again, it can be done progressively and gently and nicely, but it's not the same approach. And I definitely prefer the other one because with some experience, you can see how quickly horses change with that. When they realize that you will not force any position, that they come to it
in a natural way, more natural way.
More natural way. Now, angels don't exist. This education enables you, when it's necessary, to say, hey, stop, listen to me. But as daddy is doing with his children, even the best one you can imagine. So because there is sometimes this idea that it's just a dream from the beginning to the end, and obedience without authority. This doesn't exist.
So you need authority, and you also to persist difficult situations, and there will be, as you say, always with horses, difficult situation where there needs to be.
But when it's based on the development of a high knowledge and a full confidence during the whole education, it's quite easy. When the training of the horse is too often based on constraining instrument, for instance, the side reins are not effective enough, shorten them. Don't tell me you never saw that. And then like that. The special nose bend to tighten more, everybody's using in dressage. The specialty of educating horses. And then the curb chain more. On the and then more
on the double bridle,
sharp bit, and that's not the same. There is a risk when there are difficulties that it really turns bad, because when people have high expectations, they want to succeed, and there are difficulties. If they don't have nice solutions, but which need knowledge and a bit time, then you and I and anybody, expectation, not the good solution, you become rough. There is no other solution. Either you give up or you become rough. I don't know other alternative.
One horse that is very special to you and is probably the landmark horse for you when it comes to schooling and education is High Noon. Many wehorse fans know High Noon, all the fans of you, of course. What does High Noon, the Hanoverian horse, mean to you?
A lot. He is not the only one. There has been Odin, because he was a stallion, the first Lusitano coming in the school. and he has been incredibly successful, 13 years long. And the first time I came in Germany, it was to show in Equitana with him. The Cadre Noir was invited. We were 4 riders, and I was showing him here.
Oh, really?
In
the big arena?
In 87.
Yes.
87. So it's 30 years ago. And I would appreciate to show High Noon in the correct conditions to finish the story. I had others also, but were also showing, but less known because Odin came on a special period. I came with him at the school, and he was very young, and I had to impose him in the school because they didn't, and nobody were accepting a Lusitano there. I mean,
because only French horses were.
Oh yes, there was an incredible opposition, and the Colonel Durand has been incredibly helpful, because he was open-minded. You know, he was coming from jumping. He was open to any solution if it were good, and he was clever. Aside that. And High Noon is special. Why? Because I mean, is my first German horse. He's Hannoveraner, but he has a lot of Trakehner. He has a lot of blood. He's a very elegant horse, and I got him in special conditions too. I was meeting Mr. Ampel yesterday. He was
who's one? He used to be in charge of the Hannoveraner Federation.
We were managing this story together, and with Mr. Schade, also, and I contacted them in 2007 or 8, saying I plan to do DVDs with Pferdia. And I would like this time to do it with a German horse, because I was doing with Lusitanos and others, and good. No, he was not my first German horse. I said something wrong. I had another one before, Sampaio, yes. But this one, and so I said I would like to find one, but I don't want to put an incredible money, so I would like something reasonable. Good.
So you went to them and say, what do you got?
What could you find for me? And after 1 year, in 2009, end of 2009, when we were going with the school, we were going showing in Verden. They told me...
the center of the...
Yes, with the school. And they said, we have one to show you. He's out of the competition circuit because at the beginning of his being 4, he has been injured. He had a severe suspensory problem. So it's 1 year he's on the pasture. We think he could fit to you, because I was telling them I like horses. I mean, I like also thoroughbred and horses like that. So no, good. And they were showing me that one. So long fur, long feet. He was not in his best suit, but let's see.
Not love at first sight.
No, but there were things I liked anyway. And they have been very nice. Things have been very clear with them. They offered me to take the horse for 1 year to try him, because he was a special case. I came to know afterward that in Verden he was considered as a difficult one, and I understand why a bit. And so they took an insurance. The horse came home, and I started the training. And after some months, when the vet specialized in dentistry came from Germany, somebody we knew, Mrs. I have to remember her name. Doesn't matter. She found that he had 2 broken molars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And one side was pulled off, the other side also, but with roots still in. Good. So he came to Germany for 6 weeks, 2 operations, very expensive, So I had to talk with the Hannoveraner Verband again. They listen.
There's an issue.
Yeah, and I was already very connected to the horse. I said, I take the risk of the operation. It's no choice anyway. I pay the operation, but you lower a bit the price, please. And they said, yes, okay. So I got him for very, very reasonable money. And we started the DVDs. And I was naturally sending them. And it seems they liked very much. And, I'm 72. It's probably my last horse. I don't think I'm going to buy 3 others. And so...
Here at Equitana, I'm always, because here we're speaking at Equitana with this podcast today, I'm always every day talking to Linda Tellington-Jones, and she always tries to explain me her 15-year plan. She's 82, so you still have a couple of years to go, Philippe.
Yes, I know, but I'm more on horseback than she is, and I admire her. This is not the thing. But it's not my plan to go on riding as long as possible if it's to become ridiculous. I don't want. As long as I can maintain the things on a satisfying level for me, okay. Otherwise, I'll stop.
Does the breed matter to you? Because you had a Lusitano back then in your time in Saumur, and now a Hanoverian. Is the breed of matter to you, or is that no effect to having a good horse?
No, I've been especially interested in the Lusitanos due to Oliveira and all that period. But in the same time, I was riding any kind of horse in 3 days event, in jumping. So I was looking strange to both of the sides, for the Baroque scene, I would say, Portuguese, Oliveirist, and I was a strange guy jumping like a crazy. And for the sportive people, I was a circus guy because I was interested in Spanish folk, Piaffe and Passage, and Lusitanos. It has always been like that. And so... No, I've been schooling Anglo-Arabian, thoroughbreds, any kind. No,
C'est français.
Yes, but I think one of the proof that the method is good is that you can adapt it to any kind of horse. It's also interesting to be extremely specialized in one discipline and one type of horse. To me, is reductive. It's something risky. I understand that some people do it, but I don't want. For instance, side reins, it can work with lipid zanners and with Baroque horse who already have a neck like that. Try with a thoroughbred. We will break everything.
It doesn't work.
So it's better to find better solutions for both. Because you can use the same solution for both. You will... the progression will look a bit different. For instance, with a Baroque horse, one fundamental first aim will be to extend their neck, what generally Baroque people don't do, because they need to stretch this bull neck like that and have more forward gaits. The thoroughbred could be, for him it will be very natural and easy to belong. He will very soon have to learn to come to a self-carriage. So, and in both situations, a clever way to use the hands and different attitudes to create this or that is a necessity.
Philippe, at the end of every wehorse podcast, we have the 4 classical wehorse questions. And I would like you to answer the first question now. And the question is, do you have a motto?
What is motto?
Oh,
motorcycle?
Counter question. No, a motto, a philosophy after which you live. What's your motto?
In my life,
exactly.
I should think about that before the podcast. what you are expecting is one of these brilliant sentences saying a philosophy.
I don't expect anything. I just want to know if you do have a motto.
Not specially. Not specially. I think in my profession, and so probably in my life, because both things work together. I don't know. I'm often repeating to the students, for instance, they are teachers. I mean, do what you say and say what you do. And, you like it?
That's a good motto.
Good. Maybe another one.
We already found one, I guess. Then question number 2 is there a person that inspired you, that influenced you personally the most?
In riding?
And maybe in your personal life?
In riding, there has been Oliveira and Colonel Durand. Oliveira, because in that time he was the only. This is what has made him special. He has been the only alternative to the sad dressage of the time, and showing that schooling the horses can be an art somewhere. And this was a light in the night, because I think I was even writing that in a book where I was invited to write about him. I think probably without his example, I would have stopped this profession quite quick. I had the feeling to be in something mechanical and a bit sad, yes. And General Durand, because he was a fantastic jumping rider and incredibly classical, and he has been a chance for me. I mean, thanks to him, I came in the Cadre Noir, and then I was still in contact with him afterwards, and it has been important.
Question number 3 is, if you could give equestrians and horse lovers one advice, what would it be?
Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
We heard a lot of advices so far, but what's the most striking one for you?
There is this sentence from Wachter I like very much, but in French it works because playing with the words, but I'm not sure it works in German. Vous savez la phrase de Wachter qui dit l'équitation se résume à 2 choses, justesse et justice. I could express that another way. More knowledge, less instruments. More cleverness, less power. That's a nice program.
That's a very good advice.
Good.
And then the last question is more a completion of a sentence. Please complete this sentence for me. For me, horses are.
It will be, ça va être banal et affreux, mais oui. My whole life.
That's excellent. That's wonderful.
With music and other little things like that, but they complete each other anyway.
It was a pleasure having you, Philippe,
Thank you.
on our podcast. And the time went by so fast. We could have spoken for another 2 hours, I reckon.
Oh, yes.
We have all the content with you on wehorse, the DVDs, and of course the online streaming videos, especially the part 3 of High Noon, which has been released recently. And looking forward maybe to our next podcast. Thank you, Philippe Karl.
Thank you very much.
Falls euch das Interview mit Philippe Karl gefallen hat, freuen wir uns über eine positive Bewertung, beispielsweise bei Apple Podcast, bei Google, bei Facebook oder bei allen anderen Bewertungsmöglichkeiten. Abonniert diesen Podcast-Kanal, dann werdet ihr immer informiert über die neueste Folge des wehorse Podcasts. Bis bald.